everyone, and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolf. That is the Hall of Famer Chris Carter. That is Nick Wright. Everything good, guys?
All good.
Got a great show today.
Absolutely.
Big news out of Ohio State today. Big Ben might be worried about one of his receivers, and the Patriots got rid of another one of theirs, and that's
that he was the type of Patriot player that could do that for a long time. Now, have the Patriots kind of coveted a big receiver? Yes, they have. Ever since Randy Moss left, they've never been able to have a big physical guy. But if you look at Kenny Britt, what's his skill set compared to what do the Patriots want to do? No, you knew that this is not a long-term fit. Patriots receivers, what do they have to be? They have to be able to play multiple positions. They have to be able to learn basically kind of a new passing scheme week after week. So they have to be really smart. I'm not saying Kenny Britt is not a smart football player, but I'm just saying he's one-dimensional. He is your typical big X receiver, only plays to the boundary, doesn't go in motion. He's not fast enough to be a flanker. And the other thing, the reason why I didn't think he was a long-term fit was because he doesn't run with the football after the catch well. We know what New England likes to do. They like to be able to throw the ball around, but they love for a guy to be able to make that first person miss. Don't see that skill set, so not surprised that they, also with his hamstring, that they parted ways.
But when they signed him at the end of last year, they knew he could only play the one position, the X position. They still decided, we'll bring him in, see if we can get anything out of him.
The reason why that was an advantage, because he had all the OTAs, all the training camp, so he had a better chance of being able to do that. But most of that time, he's had a bad hamstring.
No, but the reason I bring that up is the Pats just dismissed out of hand almost Dez Bryant. And I listen, a lot of the things you're saying Patriot receivers have to be able to do are things Dez is not known for doing. It's one of the reasons we have not connected Dez to the Pats throughout this entire process. Play multiple positions, nope. Be a guy that is considered a really smart football player. That at least wasn't his reputation in Dallas. But at some point, I would think you would say, okay, well, right now, Chris Hogan is our most accomplished receiver that is coming back to the team. Philip Dorsett, who was on the team week 1 of last year. He wasn't there for training camp, but they traded for him right before the season started. He had 18 catches. Danny Amendola for the season. Danny Amendola's gone. Cooks is gone. Edelman's gone for the first month. I would consider, if I were New England, doesn't sound like they will, but if I were New England, I would consider doing something that is not Patriot-esque, because this is as bereft of talent of a receiving core as we've seen them have in the Tom Brady era, dating back to the Troy Brown, Deion Branch days. Like, it's hard to find the guys who are going to have 60 catches, much less 90 catches.
Well, they're depending on Hogan having a tremendous year and also the number of running backs. I could see 3 of their running backs catching the ball 50 times. So that's the way they're going to do it. And what they can't afford right now is an injury to Rob Gronkowski. Because besides Brady and Belichick, Gronk is so valuable. And the one thing that New England will do as an offense, they will go through so many different formations. They're going to go a lot of motion. They're going to do a lot of shifting. You're not going to know where the guys are. So they're going to use a little hocus pocus, to try to be successful, and especially to get through that first 4 games until they get Edelman back, Jenna.
We talked early in the week about sort of how light that offensive line is right now and how they really need to shore that up. And today we're talking about how light that receiving core is and how they're going to need to do something. And yet if we fast forward to the very end, we're like, oh, but it's the Patriots. They're going to be okay with whatever personnel they put out there. At some point, you got to start worrying. Tom Brady has to throw the ball to someone. Tom Brady's going to need a little protection to be able to throw the ball to someone. At what point, guys, do we get to the place where we say that team needs a little bit of help now?
I mean, I'm already there. And if they were in maybe any other division in the NFL, I would be greatly concerned, even with Brady, even with Belichick. But when like, okay, so the first process for any NFL season, for any team that wants to win a Super Bowl, is win your division. We know they've done it. Teams have done it from the wild card, but it's so much harder. You have the extra playoff game. You're not going to play any home playoff games. So the first step is win your division. And I look at the Bills. and their quarterback battles between A.J. McCarron and a raw rookie in Josh Allen. I look at the Jets. They're going to be starting Sam Darnold in week 1. And I look at the Dolphins. They're going to be starting a quarterback in Tannehill who I didn't think was very good at his best, and he hasn't played football in over a year. Like, he's been on the Andrew Luck plan. We just haven't talked about it because it's Ryan Tannehill and the Dolphins. Like, so when you feel like their division is a given, and that means they don't really have to have things figured out till December, they're just in a more advantageous position than any other team in the league.
Yeah, it's going to be, this is not the first time we've looked at New England and thought, Jenna, you know something, they need more talent. But Nick, as you pointed out yesterday, I think, how many years in a row with 12 wins?
Every year since 2010. 12 wins, not 10 wins, 12 wins.
So it's not how are the Patriots going to score, how the Patriots going to win. And they're going to do it, but a variety of different ways. But you can say that their confidence in Tom Brady, based on the people they have him playing with, they couldn't have more confidence in Tom Brady than this year, because they're going to need Tom at his absolute best to be able to play with this lack of a household name, lack of a dominant, a speed guy on the outside. Like, they do have a number 1 receiver in Gronk, so let's not forget that. I think because he's a tight end, people think, oh, you can't have a tight end that's number 1 receiver. Oh, yes, you can. And in New England, it's Rob Gronkowski.
You made a good point yesterday that if teams are going to get to the Patriots, you want to get to them in September, in October, in November. Don't let them start to figure it out. You know, once they get exactly, because once they get close to the end of winning this division, then they've sort of shored everything up. But looking at this receiving core, getting back to them releasing Kenny Britt, where do you think this receiving core ranks in terms of what Brady's had in the last couple of years?
Well, they're not as talented. They're not as talented. They don't have a speed guy. Nick and I talk about all the time. If you have a wide receiving group, you like to be able to put together a basketball team. Well, they've had a dominant center, and that being in Gronkowski. And they've allowed the running backs. But when you miss Deion Lewis, they do have James White there, and he's going to have a spectacular season. They drafted Sony Michel, but they don't have those wing players that we like to have. They don't have size on the outside. They got a bunch of just guys that would just be normal wide receivers unless they had if they didn't have this offense and that special quarterback running that offense.
Well, and look at the playoffs last year. Let's just go catches in the playoffs. Who led them? Danny Amendola. He doesn't play for them anymore. Second was Rob Gronkowski. You mentioned he's the key, and he was second in catches even though he had been injured during the playoffs. Third is Brandon Cooks. He doesn't play for them anymore. Fourth is Deion Lewis. He doesn't play for them anymore. Fifth was James White. He's a running back. Now we're down to Chris Hogan, 6th, 9 catches. And we're saying Chris Hogan is the guy. When we're talking Chris Hogan, Cordarrelle Patterson, who's a kick returner. Like, it will be another magic trick if the Patriots turn Cordarrelle Patterson into a wide receiver. He was drafted as one, with a kick returner being a bonus, but you don't take a kick returner in the first round like Minnesota did. He hasn't been able to be a wide receiver in this league. And now, I mean, because they're the Patriots, it's like, oh, they do have that 6th-round pick, Braxton Berrios. Maybe he'll be their Amendola. For no other team would we say their 6th-round undersized receiver, Braxton Berrios, could be a big contributor. But the Pats, you think it's possible?
Now, I could be wrong in this, but I believe that Belichick and Brady believe that they're going to turn Cordarrelle Patterson into something. Now, do I think that might be the reason why they didn't sign Dez? Is because they're already working with the guy who has been there all offseason? I could see that happening, because you can only have so many projects on your roster, but you can only have so many in so many rooms. You can't have 4 of your running backs to 2 of them to be projects. Like, only 1 of them can be a project. So I believe the Cordarrelle Patterson, that is a full-blown experiment. And to try to bring Dez into that, I believe that what they've seen in Cordarrelle, that probably prevents them from signing him, and probably some other things.
And while we don't ever, obviously, you don't root for injury, and you almost don't even want to bake in injury for any player in this league, if we are going to project the season, and I just ask you, you have to be right. Will Rob Gronkowski play 16 games this year? You would say no. No. Well, if I said you have to be right, will he play 14 games this year?
Why not?
You probably say no. If I say you have to be right, will he play at least 12? That's about the number you'd say, yeah, I feel comfortable that Gronk will, okay, like if he, I hope he plays 16. He's one of the most talented tight ends I've ever seen. But when you're saying the one guy they can't lose to an injury is a guy who seemingly every year you lose time due to injury, that's problematic.
And if we don't have the bye week before Super Bowl 52, Gronk doesn't play.
Right.
He doesn't play because he was concussed.
And back to Dez, yet another team that is not interested in his services. We're going to take a break tonight. Thursday Night Football. How much can Baker Mayfield prove against the Super Bowl champs? That's next. First things first.
What network's that on tonight, Jenna?
That would be on Fox. 8 p.m.